Hello and good
Well,
morning. How are we
good
doing?
morning. Pretty good. And yourself?
Good. I'm going to start today off out of the gates with a fresh conspiracy. Are you ready for this one?
All right, let's hear it.
So, this morning I went through the Starbucks line and get a Starbucks. And I'm not a frequent Starbucks coffee drinker, but I was really tired this morning and I dropped the kids off at school and it's right around the corner. Normally I'm a bougie bee and like grind it at home, but I'm like, it's just there, right? So you go through the drive through and you obviously give them your name. And my name is Josh. Like it's pretty hard to screw that up. I mean, there's only one way to spell it. And I get the drink, and you can't see it because my filter, but they spell Josh Jos, so Jaws. This is the third time Starbucks has messed up my name. I have been Jash with an A, I have been Jish with an I, and now I am Jaws Jos. So my conspiracy is they do this on purpose. So you like post it on Facebook or social media and be like, oh man, look at these guys. They can't spell my name right. And you're basically offering free marketing for Starbucks because when you see that in your feed, you're like, man, they did spell your name wrong. But you know what? Starbucks looks great. So it's all, dude, it's all part of their game plan. And I'm not
I
falling
like
for
that.
it. So just watch out there. I'm on to you, Starbucks. I'm on to you.
I like that. That's just believable enough. It's up there with birds aren't real, right?
No, that's not a conspiracy. That's actually a thing. Come on now. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're gonna get community live
Oh
here taken
man.
off the air in record time.
So how was your
uh,
week?
man, things are it's pretty busy. I'm really excited for Right a Boom, so I'm trying to get some things squared away so I don't have to come back to too much work and going off of initiatives. I mean, I'm sure everyone had a nice holiday season, so there wasn't a lot of movement there. But now that everyone's back, it's kind of full swing of things. So just keeping on back to a bunch of meetings and so doing some fun stuff. We got something really cool coming up for IR games that I'm working on a new scenario as well. So just always keeping busy. About
Awesome.
yourself?
It's been a relaxing week. I'm actually in Hawaii with my kids, and so today's my last day here. But yeah, apologies in advance for the crappy hotel Wi-Fi that I am entrusting today. But
Hey,
yeah, it's been pretty darn nice.
nope, can't go wrong with that, man. Nice relaxing week, and I'm sure the weather there is a lot better than where whatever it is back home. So can't go
Yeah,
wrong
that's I
there.
heard they got like
Uh,
2 inches of freezing rain back home. Like, yeah, no, thank you.
yep, stay there, man. Get the Halua skirt and have some fun. So, but we probably should get into some stories this week. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
suppose so. Let's start off with
absolutely.
some
You
good
want to
news.
take us away here? What do we got for good news?
All right, so it's 35% in totaling 113,550,000. So I assume this has a little to do with companies understanding value a little bit better around security and some of the requirements coming from cybersecurity. Um, but some other things to say here as well.
So yeah, I obviously it's good news. I mean, it dropped 35%, which is significant, but $813 million is still a lot of money. In the article, it shows that only 30% of the victims negotiated, and if we look at some law enforcement efforts, we have Operation Kronos and the Alpha V Black Cat exit scam. So they disrupted these major ransomware groups, and the smaller ones, although they're still there, they're not operating on the same scale as those larger ones. Now, on the flip side of things here, I do want to bring up that that number is, all we can go off of. Unfortunately, a lot of I would say it like insurance or when you get IR firms involved, they don't really like reporting those numbers as part of whatever the confidentiality and thing like that. So we have to realistically assume the number is still higher. But I mean, it does go to show that, hey, these companies are investing more in cybersecurity, and we're taking the right actions to hopefully keep seeing that number go down and down. The other flip side of things is, unfortunately, this is just going to keep evolving. We on the other side of the fence are constantly paying catch up, right? So ransomware, although might be dropping, they're finding other ways such as email compromise and ACH, the wire fraud, or data exfiltration, or the other thing that is coming up too is like the re-ransom, like, hey, we got in your environment, pay us a ransom to get your stuff back, but then, oh wait, pay us another one so we don't release your data, things like that. So unfortunately, realistically, they're just going to find other ways, because there's just, I mean, 813 million is a lot of money. There's still money in this. So we just have to hopefully keep doing what we're doing the basics right with cybersecurity, increasing awareness, and hopefully in 2025, when we read this news story in a year, the number will drop even less.
Yeah, that's, and I think that education still plays a huge part in this. When you look at things like the Verizon defer report, where business email compromise is still the number one attack vector. So I'd be interested to just kind of see what the requirements from cyber insurance continue to change, because obviously they're going to keep shoring up some of those gaps, but I would be curious to see where we're at in another 5 years as far as those requirements. You have any
Yep.
predictions on things that you think they might start requiring out of the SMB market?
As far as I mean, I would say probably more MDR, more like backup testing, like proof that you're doing things right now. I think right now it's just, hey, you should have this, and it's a yes or no, and it really only comes into play if a claim is filed. But I think we're going to see there's going to be more enforcement, like, hey, you need this, and you need to prove that you have it. We're not just going to operate off of the trust system anymore.
Yeah. No, I'm curious if we'll end up adopting, or if the cyber insurance companies will start adopting something like um, CIS IG1 as a base requirement, something along those lines.
They're gonna go off of the car, like the car where you get like the safe driving discount, and you plug a little thing on your
Right.
network, so they can, and then that opens a whole other can of worms too. Like, how is that secure and all that? But
Yep.
in jest, but I don't, as much as I made that as a joke response, I can honestly see that almost becoming a
Honestly,
thing.
some of the conversations I've had with some of the brokers out there, that is something that they are looking at. So
Yep.
it's not too far fetched to imagine if they can figure out the risk around it. Because
Yep.
obviously, as much as I'm sure they like our rates being a bit high, they don't like paying out that money either. So
Absolutely. Well, and even with all of the requirements and everything that comes down the line, I mean, at the end of the day, as the title of our next story is, sometimes you have to move on, and you can't save everyone. So let's get into that story and see what that's about. Heading back to the MSP subreddit. So this person assisted a dental office owner by migrating a failing server to a new supported system over the holidays. But despite that upgrade, and despite saving their business, the owner was frustrated about the $3,000 cost, and really unwilling to invest in ongoing IT support, including your standard stack, RMM, patch management, backups, etc. The dentist preferred a break-fix model, citing past low IT costs and other business expenses. And although he acknowledged the value of the poster's services, he opted for a cheaper backup solution and just wanted to cancel existing services. Unfortunately, this shows that not all clients prioritize this proactive IT management. And that's kind of where you go into, like, not all revenue is good revenue. In my first MSP, we got called into it was like a foot doctor's clinic. I don't, podiatrist, I think that's the right word for it. But in any case, he called us needing help because he claimed the old MSP was holding his stuff ransom and all this stuff, and they locked him out of his server, and he painted this picture. And this was a fairly kind of younger MSP, so and I'm a tech at this point. Like, I don't have the management experience or the career experience at this point to ask the right questions or see through it, but basically painted this picture like, hey, my system's down, the old IT place isn't helping, can you please come in and help me? Like, I need this, business needs to get up. So went there and forcibly reset it was like a VMware server, which was fun. I hadn't done that before, so it was pretty cool to learn how to do that and get him back up and running. And lo and behold, he didn't pay us. So clearly that's why the other IT provider probably did what they did. Whether it's moral or right or wrong, that's neither here nor there. But clearly, you could see the type of person this organization was, where they're just not in the business of paying bills for one reason or another. But I think this is something that every MSP, whether you're a small, large, single person, comes to realize at some point.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's I mean, we kind of, when we started out, we took money from everyone and chased every dollar. And finally, we reached that maturity level, thankfully, fairly early on, where we started weeding out those clients that didn't value the technology, didn't value the recommendations. They were going to kind of choose and pick what they wanted to prioritize and do. And now we're in a much better place now, where people understand that if we're asking them to do something, that there's a reason behind that, and it's a bit more prescriptive. I always like the doctor analogy of, our clients should be listening to us like you listen to your doctor at the end of the day. Your doctor should not be recommending drugs for you to add to your regimen just for the sake of adding those drugs. So hopefully the MSP in this scenario is obviously giving good advice, but adopting frameworks and having that data to back up your decisions helps build that trust. And really, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is if the client trusts you or not. And they don't trust you, then they're not going to value what you're doing.
So to further expand on that, just as a general question, do you have like when do you push the walk away button? Like how much are you, I guess, chasing these? Or let's say in this scenario, dentist office, you're going through there. Are you like trying to educate them on HIPAA, or like are you like what is your, I guess, what's your like path on when you're like, okay, this isn't a good fit, and talk to us when you're ready?
Sure. Yeah. So typically now, I think we're able to come up with a lot of that during onboarding and during that discovery period, because we're going to be outlining what their project and stabilization plan looks like. So, and then kind of from a gut check, every time you're doing um, your quarterly check-ins or QBRs, TBRs with them, you should have a pretty good gauge on whether or not they understand and value things. I don't know that there's a firm like they don't do, X, Y, and Z unless it's an egregious thing, like they're just reusing people's social security numbers on public pads of paper or something like that, but passing them out. But usually we're going to try and educate first and explain reasoning and plan, and get them to buy into that plan. And it becomes pretty apparent if they're not going to buy into that plan. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think the discovery definitely is where most of that stuff is found, and we're fortunate into that. We are a little more of a mature MSP, so our ideal client profile is one that is at a higher operational maturity level. So if someone comes in as like an OML level 1, we can help them get to an OML 2, 3, or 4. But if it's clear that they don't want to make that move, then it just won't be a good fit. And we can recommend a break fix client or maybe a smaller MSP that would be a better fit until they're ready to move up that operational maturity level. And then the other side of it too is, I think having a valued price on your services helps with that differentiator too as well. If they're just shopping for price, well, as we're well aware here, like it's not a race to the bottom. And if you're just focused on price, that's probably not how you want to start a client relationship and a partnership.
Yeah, no, what's the old adage of good, fast, and cheap to choose two?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really care to be cheap at the end of the day. There's value to the things that we do and to our employees' time. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well,
Well,
yeah, let's
let's
go ahead
move
and
on to
yeah.
the next one here. So it's a story about, do you use server core? Why or why not? The op shares challenges with poorly managed client servers, including unapproved software installations on hypervisor domain controllers being misused for other roles. To prevent this, their company is considering enforcing server core for hypervisors, domain controllers, and possibly file servers. The idea being that they would limit access to unskilled users, reducing security risk, make it harder for competitors to muck up the system. So, additionally, they're kind of looking at the reduced attack surface and better performance with Windows Admin Center to make it a strong choice. And they're just kind of looking for opinions on this.
Which weird is this is like the third post on RMSP of this exact same thing that I've seen in the last 3 weeks. So somebody's like astroturfing for server core here, obviously.
Yeah, stock up here and on your investments, right?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I really wanted to bring this up because first off, the Dean, one of the friends of the show here, put the best comment on this and one that I agree with the most. So this is like basically saying, okay, you've identified a problem. You eat too much. So how we're gonna solve it is we're just gonna chop off my arms. Like, okay, cool. Now I can't eat as much, but now you've increased the burden of care for me. Like, 'cause, like I got to figure out how else somebody eat, or someone's got to do some extra work to take care of me. So, like, yeah, you're solving a problem by going to server core, but like you're making it that much harder to manage and take care of. And I know I've come into a couple places where we've taken a client and some of their things are on server core, and I'm a technical person, like I can use it, I have no problem with it, but why? Like, why are we purposely making this harder? I mean, we have like a tech stack. The whole point of the MSP model of our tech stack is to have consistent, like, service delivery across all of our tools and our resources. And by hindering that service core, I mean, then you're just making it harder on yourself, the client, and kind of really on everyone, in my opinion. And not to say that yes, server core is technically more secure and less overhead and things like that, but I just it just kind of makes you seem like that cool, edgy, like I only use Linux. Like, no, there's uses for it. Don't get me wrong, but maybe I'm just getting old here. I just want my shit to work. Like,
Yeah, no, well, and that's, I mean, there's other compensating controls that you should probably be leaning into first. The first thing that I would probably be asking about is, if you're worried about your own employees mucking up the system, like what policies do you have in place? What checks and balances do you have in place for your employees? If they're disregarding them, or if they don't know, then you need to define something.
yep.
But yeah, there's plenty of other compensating controls that they could be putting them in place here to address this without losing features and ease of use.
Absolutely. And then the other thing is, like, how much more how much more training does it take? Like, would you trust a level 1 tech to operate server core? Like, to me, that seems like a level 2 or a higher sort of skill.
Right.
I mean, just that much more training and everything to handle this. So I don't think it's necessarily like a bad idea, but I also don't think it's a good idea as well. So I'm going to I'm going to say let's let's just leave it. I mean, your best practices too, like you shouldn't be installing other things on DCs and things like that. But I think that's where you bring into that consulting role. Oh, we have a guest here, Mr. Tony Francisco. We phoned a friend in here.
I've only got 2 minutes, you guys. I feel horrible. I'm supposed to be on another call. I'm running late between meetings.
Well, you're a technical guy. Would you put server core on hypervisors or domain controllers, or would you rather use the GUI? That's the hot question right now.
Wait, so I heard you talking about putting a level 1 on core and server core, and I was like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, that's where I jumped in, and I was freaking out. I don't know if you guys could hear me screaming in the background. And then I heard you say, well, I think it's more of a level 2. I'm like, thank you. Okay, so what's the question again? I've got 2 minutes.
So you have hypervisors and you have a domain controller, and
Yep.
there's people installing apps on them. They're not using it the way they should be. Like, it should just be a standalone thing. So to get around that, to combat it, let's just put server core on there, because then unskilled people can't use it. We can't install other things on it, right? It's more secure. There's less overhead. So, like, why not, man?
Then why don't you just take a hypervisor, put all your domain controllers on the hypervisor? That's a great idea. Why don't we just do that? That's a and make sure that's all on one server. I think we're all saying the same thing, which is at the end of the day, there is a level of complexity that's required, and that's everyone's thinking, oh, AI. Eventually, AI will take care of things, but the human putty that's going to be filling in all those gaps is going to be critical, and it's items like this that say, hey, from previous experience, we know not to do this. But I think we're saying the same thing. But I could be wrong. Just my opinion. I just know I've personally made the mistakes of putting a domain controller on a hypervisor in a virtual environment and having them all. And then we had a failure. And I was like, well, now I need to figure out how to roll over domain controller access, and I can't remember how to do that. Let me do that correctly. Was it FSMA roles? FSMA roles. I had to do all the FSMA roles, and not to bore. Literally, I just put everyone to sleep right there. But the good news is, I'm affirming what I think we're saying, which is make the right choice. It's going to add a little bit more complexity. It's going to require a little bit more skill set, but you're doing it the right way.
Yep. So I think we're all in agreements. Perfect. Well,
I love you guys. I'm going to be here next time. This meeting got overlapped, and I wish I was here from the beginning.
Hey, all good. We're glad you could join us for the brief time and drop your knowledge. We'll see you next week. Thanks for hopping in.
Take care, guys.
See ya. Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of brings up, like, why don't you just give everyone Windows S mode at that point? Like, that you're hampering features and usability. Yes, technically you are improving security, but at what cost? And that's that whole
the triad, the triangle,
balancing security versus security versus usability here. All right. You want to move on?
Yeah, let's talk more about security. So we're going to go through another news article. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. Zyxel won't patch newly exploited flaws in end-of-life routers. So Zyxel issued a security advisory confirming an actively exploited vulnerabilities in its end-of-life CPE series routers, but it's not going to release patches. Researchers at VulnCheck discovered the flaws in July 2024, and Grey Noise recently observed exploitation attempts. The flaws allowed command line injection and remote access due to the weak default credentials. Despite being outdated, over 1,500 devices remain exposed online. Zyxel advises replacing those affected models with newer hardware. Additionally, Zyxel claims VulnCheck disclosed the vulnerabilities without prior notice, despite requests for a detailed report. Attackers continue targeting these outdated devices worldwide. So, what do you think? I mean, should they be patching this, or are they right to say, hey, these are end of life, like you need to get with the program and get a new one?
Well, I think it kind of touches on the need for some additional standardization in the industry, where we should have that upfront, like, hey, this device is going to have support for X number of years, pretty standard across the board. But for critical flaws like that, where it's business impacting for a lot of people, like obviously we've seen with like Screen Connect, they went back and forced update those people that were end of life, end of support, just because of the security risks that it posed. So, yeah, I think that there needs to be some better defined standards around some of that, better defined expectations. But at the same time, like it is your stuff, and if it's causing harm to a fair number of businesses and with an impact like that, then there's definitely a business case to be made for making sure to update your crap.
Yeah, I'm also a little torn on this because, like you said, with the Connect Twice Screen Connect, it was like, even if this is end of life, this is a bad enough issue to where we're going to patch it regardless of EO life, because we care about the security. And not saying that Zyzel doesn't care, but ultimately, I mean, it really is their decision. If like, hey, these are end of life for a reason, they're end of support, they provide plenty of updates. So really, you almost have to be intentionally ignoring all of that to continue running something like that. And that is a risk that you take with running those end of life systems. Is, hey, you're warned. I mean, there has been things in the past as well where like Microsoft operating system exploits to an end of life operating system. Sometimes Microsoft will patch them. Other times they just say, hey, you need to update your OS to the most supported version. So I think it really depends. But I think ultimately it's not on Zyzel on this point. I think it's on the businesses who are making that business decision, whatever it is, whether it's a good business decision or a bad one, to continue running those end of life devices.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of touch on some of the other points in the article here, I think it would be beneficial if there was some standardization around bug bounty programs and responsible disclosure. If companies truly want to identify these issues and care about their security, they really need to put an emphasis on making sure that they have those programs established and defined.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, let's go ahead and keep on going to our next story here. So I don't know if you've seen this video, but this is something else here. You want to take us through this?
Yeah, so this developer used AI to alter his face during a job interview. So he was altering it in real time and replied with ChatGPT answers. And this isn't the first time that has happened. Candidate claimed to be from Europe, had a strong accent, raising some suspicions. But it seems to be kind of popping up more and more here. I've seen a couple posts actually in some other subreddits about similar things. So kind of crazy. New uses for and abuses for AI.
Yep, and it has been covered. I know it does state in there, like, is this some sort of North Korea cover up? I mean, this is something that really does keep coming up, and that has been it's something that CISA and has warned us about. Is there is North Korean companies who are trying to get employees hired and into these various companies with remote positions, and then they send their paychecks back over there. And I don't have the figure in front of me. I'm sure with a quick Google we could find it, but they got away with a lot of money over the last couple of years on this. So AI is super cool, but this is definitely scary. And in the video, the interviewer notices something up because the face just doesn't look natural. And obviously, providing the chat GPT, the text that it provides you to read off of, you can pick it up if you've really used it. I mean, you're saying, like, you're over explaining things and not really giving concrete answers. A lot of like long-winded sentences, like in politician talk, where you say a lot of words but you don't actually say anything, right? That's easy to pick up on. But the face blurring is definitely a weird one. And the interviewer, tried saying, hey, put your your hand over your face to break up the filter. And as you can clearly see, I am not using an AI filter on my face. But he wouldn't do it. So he ended the interviewer. But I think that's important to really, share these sort of things, to let other businesses know this stuff is out there, because somebody who might not be as in tune to those sort of things, or might not be as technically adept as this interviewer, I could see easily being fooled by something like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. There was a really compelling video about the future of deep fakes, where they were showing off some of this technology where people can do this on the fly. And the gentleman was impersonating the guy that was interviewing him. And then as the technology becomes more democratized here, we're going to be seeing more and more of this. So it kind of brings up this question of, how do you validate and verify that, some of these things are actually true? Like we saw with the was that the Chinese company that they had a deepfake Zoom session, I believe it was, that where they ended up transferring that money.
Yep. You almost need you almost need like a human MFA, like a code that, only like your trusted advisor is like, hey, if I tell you to do this stuff, we need a secret code word.
And
unless
the crow flies at midnight.
Exactly. And it sounds ridiculous, but like it's almost necessary at this point. And that's what we tell people with, like, when they're getting like business email compromise phishing emails, like, hey, if something seems off or wrong, like, use an alternative method to reach out to this person and let them know. But then if I receive a phone call or a Teams and it's Henry, and it sounds like Henry and it looks like Henry, I mean, it really depends on the message. And the only way we can combat it really is with awareness and training. And just if you see something, say something. Like if something feels off, just verify another way, whether that is the secret code phrase or I mean, I don't know at this point, but that really seems to be the only thing that we can do to combat these.
Yeah. Well, and I think it drives some conversation too around what you're doing to limit your personal attack surface. There's services like Aura, where they're going out and removing all your data from these data brokers and so forth. Because one of the things that, the first thing that an attacker is going to do is some OSINT to try and identify the people that are close to you and that you would be expecting a call from or meeting from, a conversation from. So limiting some of those attack vectors and looking at things you can do there. I've been debating whether or not to just remove my own social media profiles in general here as of late. Just again, looking at that as a potential attack surface for people. Unfortunately, we've seen that. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it certainly is. And if you can get rid of them, I mean, that's where, like, I'm at a crossroads as well. I mean, I'm an extrovert. A lot of my friends and people that I talk to on a daily basis, like, aren't local to me. I mean, I've moved. I obviously have friends in the industry and acquaintances and things like that. So I mean, I don't, what I use social media for, I don't want to get rid of it. So the alternative is really locking it down, making sure that the privacy settings are as strict as you can make them, and ultimately, there is, leaked data and all that stuff. So there's only so much you can do, and using it is just one of those where like, hey, I accept the risk on this sort of thing. But yeah, really, I mean, don't have your stuff to the public. I mean, I know that there's people online that we interact with that we actually, even though we interact with them, we don't even know their real name. They keep that stuff separate, have a different persona. And that's great. I don't have that sort of fortitude to go that far. Maybe one day, but yeah, this stuff is scary. And this is really one thing that when I do a training with our clients, to like an all staff where I go over cybersecurity basics, a lot on what I preach on is keeping your personal stuff safe. And you're like, well, but I want to keep my business stuff safe. And ultimately at this day and age, it's connected, and you have to keep both your personal and your professional email accounts and everything, I mean, safe, because everything is an attack vector. And the only way to be safe is just unplug everything and go live in the hills somewhere. So
I'm gonna go get my tinfoil hat.
Yeah, we need Tony back here.
That link in chat is the video I was talking about. It's about a year ago that Johnny Harris put it up, but he's interviewing a gentleman that is developing a lot of this technology, and he does a live interview with him where he's doing deepfake of him, and it's just wild, crazy stuff. So we will see more of this, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think to Darren's point too, life is quite fine without social media. I think if you can find the right, I mean, because social media could really be anything. Like it could be a group chat in Signal, it could be a Discord, it could be your Facebook, your Snap. Your everything. Like
Well, I think we might have lost Josh there. All right. Well,
interesting conversation to have as well.
Oh, he's back. Josh, I think we lost you there a little bit
Oh
on
no,
connection.
Man, so your hotel Wi-Fi is holding up, but my home Wi-Fi needs to get on whatever your hotel Wi-Fi is here. So I don't know what I said last, so let's just transition into the next story here. Uh, this one's pretty short and sweet. A customer is asking to hack them if I can. So let's role play here. Henry, you're my MSP, and I'm a business, and I go to you and say, hey, I want you to hack me. Go ahead and try it. How do you proceed with this?
Well, statement of work and discussing what's involved in a pen test. And quite honestly, I'd probably be hiring a third party to perform this, since we're in charge of taking care of your security. So, yeah, defining that scope of work and get out of jail free card and all that good stuff that should be going along with a true pen test. But
yeah,
I mean, on a positive note, the client's actually asking.
Yep. I would take it a step further. I mean, so you pass the test, flying colors, and there's all the right answers there. This is one where I think somebody that doesn't have that life experience will be like, oh, cool, this will be fun. Like I was asked to hack them, and then all of a sudden you're going to break the production environment, and now are you liable for all of those damages, and knowing like where what lines you can't cross and things like that. So finding out the scope of work and all that is extremely important. But the other thing too, and this is something that we again advise the clients, is I never lead with a pen test, because again, if you're not doing the basics right, like if you're not following some sort of security framework, I don't NIST, CIS, whatever, then like, yeah, they're gonna get in. Let's focus on like building up, like, let's close the holes that we can do, right? Let's look at your security posture. What are you following? And what can we add to there? And once you're at a pretty decent maturity level, once you are following most of a framework, then let's bring in the pen test firm. Let's find out what what else can we do? What things might have we missed? What things can they still exploit? And then further close those holes. But if you're not even doing basic things, with EDR or MFA or best configuration practices, like, I'm going to save you $15,000 because that's what they're going to exploit. And of course they're going to get in. We could have fixed that without a pen test.
Right.
So, I mean, I just think, like, well, try to hack me and then I'll fix that specific entry point isn't the right way to go about it. And I apologize to my friends in the pen testing firms, but I think at the end of the day they'll agree with that.
Yeah, no, that's if they haven't covered their basics, there's really not a point in doing the pen test.
Yep.
That's only going to provide useless information at the end of the day, or information you could have gotten in other means for far cheaper. So,
yep.
But it would be scary to. I would be scared to be involved in a pen test of a client that didn't have a scope of work or any of the proper documentation in place. So, please do not go willy-nilly into doing those things unless you have really deep pockets and like giving away money.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right, well, we knocked that one out of the park. Have a good scope of work and make sure you're following a framework. So let's go ahead and have a really fun conversation here on the last story of the day. Removing local admin rights for software developers. This is a battle as old as time. So where do you stand on this? And now, as an MSP, I mean, ultimately we can make recommendations and things like this, but it is ultimately up to the business whether they want. But let's just try this from a different perspective. If you want to put on like a CISO hat or whatever, you have in-house developers, but you also want to keep them secure. Do you give them local admin rights?
So I will say that my team hates me because I do some development, but and so we're always kind of butting heads because there are things when I just want to hop in and do something real quick, but I also understand that security matters, and so I don't have access to my own stuff. I have to request that. So we do application whitelisting and removal of admin rights. So everything has to have a change order request that's attached to it. And that gets reviewed and approved by someone on the service desk. So I can't install stuff on my own machine without doing that.
Yep. And the where I come from too is something I strive for with soft skills and people skills is trying to find that compromise and basically, not saying, hey, tough shit, I have to do this, like, to provide the compliance, is finding that balance and working with them. Like, hey, we want the same things. Like, I want you to be able to code, and I'm sure that you want to be secure and not be the reason that our company gets compromised. So let's say, there's things that we have to follow for compliance, regulatory reasons, and we have to put these things in place. Like, what pain points is that going to cause and how can we solve it? Maybe it's a sandbox environment or a VM, like, hey, you go into here and you can do whatever you want. You have your local admin, but this is separated. This is your own production environment or your own dev environment and everything like that. And we have proper change controls in place and trying to really work with them rather than butt heads, because ultimately at the end of the day we're on the same team. We're trying to do the same things, and it is frustrating. I've definitely been on the I've gotten into arguments with some of my developer friends where we've literally gone through this in a separate Slack. Funnily enough, it's a running Slack where we've gone like, man, from a cybersecurity perspective, like this would not fly. Like what you're doing is not good. And they're like, well, I'm a developer, and if you don't let me do this, then I'm going to find another way to do it. Like, and I'll just do shadow IT. I'll work on my own computer. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But like, come on, man, you got like, there's got to be some sort of middle ground and compromise for it. But it's always a fun argument to have. But that's how I would personally handle it. It's just, hey, let's figure this out together. These are things that we have to have in place, and it's going to cause you to have to do your workflow history. So I want to understand your workflow and figure out where that middle ground is to where you can do your damn job and I can try to keep us secure.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think that's kind of the crux of it is you have to have buy-in from the software developers, at least at some level here of understanding of the importance of what you're trying to do and accomplish from a security practitioner standpoint. And if you don't have that buy-in, then yeah, they're going to find a way. They're going to do what they want. So work together, figure it out.
All right. Well, we did it. We managed the show from both ends of the world here. With the last remaining time, you got anything you would like to plug? What do you got going on, or what's coming up?
Oh gosh. Well, I will be with the rest of the degenerates at Zero Trust World here coming up. There is a $200 discount code out there in the Discord if that's something that interests you to attend. And then I know there's another show coming up as well, same time, unfortunately.
Yep, and
you're going to be at, right?
I'll be at Right of Boom, so I will. I'll be there. Definitely look forward. If anyone's coming, let me know. I know Matt Topper and Brandon and myself are going to go on a 6 o'clock run, 6:30 run, one of the mornings. So if you want to join us on that, but if not, plenty of time for socializing. Hit me up if you're going to be there, and we'll definitely meet up there. I'm really excited for that event. Other than that, again, I know I brought it up at the beginning of it, but our IR game, we have a new scenario. So we've done your worst day, which is a ransomware. We've done a business email compromise, and now I've kind of developed a cloud compromise where cloud infrastructure gets compromised and everything that goes into that. And we're hoping to have that ready by the end of February. So I've been hard at work coding that into the interface, and I'm very excited because it is a roller coaster. So please make sure you come check that out. We do a free game at the end of the month. So I'll go ahead and hang out there. Also, we have a Discord where you can join us. So if you join the MMN Discord, if there's stories that you want us to cover, or if you want to be on this show, let us know. We definitely love to have other people, more ideas, more thoughts on this, and more of a roundtable. So please join that Discord and hit us up.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, you ready for the Super Bowl?
Oh man. Yeah. Like I was telling you before, if you get the secrets of wings we were talking about this morning in my stand-up, the best wings is you get your chicken wings, you pat them as dry as you can. You use baking soda or cornstarch. I prefer cornstarch. Put them in a fridge for about a day, and then you fry them in beef tallow. Okay, get your hands on some beef tallow, and those will be the best wings. So I am not a fan of either team. These are probably my two least favorite NFL teams currently, but I'm going over to my neighbors. We're going to have some silly betting sheets. We're going to have a good potluck, and it's going to be a fun time. I mean, I think that's what I like about the Super Bowl is even if you're not a sports fan or a football fan, like it's still a fun event every year, regardless. But
yeah, no, that's I'm not a fan either of the teams involved, but yeah, I'm looking forward to. It's just a fun time to get together, so it should be a good weekend.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will see you both next Friday here after the Super Bowl, and we'll make sure, especially if Matt's on, we'll definitely have the sports intro and talk all about it. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Have a good one.
been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.